What is up, guys? Fado82 coming at you with a weekly Rust update video. What you're taking a look at right now are some characters holding guns with a silencer weapon mod which has been added into the game. Weapon mods have made their way back into Rust. This is the first iteration and so far it's only a silencer, but you can expect to see more. It's not going to be a default blueprint. As you can see, it fits most guns in the game, even the water pipe shotgun. If you guys want to go ahead and find this, you're going to have to hit some barrels. It's not a default blueprint. It's going to cost you 50 high quality metal and take about 180 seconds to craft. It will reduce the sound of the gun substantially, and it'll have barely any muzzle flash. From initial testing, it seems to have a slight impact on damage, but it has more of an impact on bullet velocity, so just keep that in mind when you're using the silencer. And you'll notice some changes to the bolt action in this week's iteration of Rust. Namely, when you aim down the sight and fire, it's going to stay aimed down and not snap back to the position it was before. It'll stay in this position until you go ahead and release the mouse button, and then it'll go back and reload. The benefit of doing this is that you can stay dialed in on your target, keep calling out targets, and it doesn't automatically put it back to the position. Once you let go of that mouse button, it will start reloading, so keep that in mind. And you'll notice this week that things sound a bit different in Rust. Keypads will sound a little less jarring, and rockets are going to sound much more badass. And bringing this back to the days of Legacy, beds are now once again in the game. They're not going to be a default blueprint. They're going to have a 2-minute craft time. They're going to run you 60 cloth and 100 metal fragments. They'll allow you to respawn every 120 seconds, and it has more health than a sleeping bag, so keep that in mind. In addition, guys, the furnaces are going to be a bit more smoky, and they're going to burn a bit brighter in this week's iteration. Be aware that this might give off your position, so go ahead and shield those furnaces so that you don't give off your position of your base if you don't want to. Also, guys, the water is going to look much more vibrant in this week's iteration. Really cool stuff. That's part of the new procedurally generated terrain, and the water is much more fluid and dynamic. You'll notice if your character's out in the Arctic biome, you're going to notice the effect that the cold breath will appear. It's really hard to see. Hope you can make it out in the video. It's a very slight touch to the game, but adds much more to the atmosphere and makes it sort of a living and breathing world, if you will. And now we're taking a look at Savas Island, which used to be referred to as Koth Island, which stood for King of the Hill Island. This is a new map that has been added to the game. It will not be a default map, and server owners will have to choose to use it. We will have a server up, so if you guys want to check it out, head on over to Rustopia and give it a go. It's basically a deathmatch only server at this point in time. In the future, it may house different types of game modes. Maybe one will be a King of the Hill type mode in which that globe monument is going to be the centerpiece. It's not going to allow you to build, so if you guys are a fan of base building, this isn't the map for you, but it's a great place to go ahead and hone your deathmatch skills. It's going to be a very visceral and intense experience because it is a very small map, only about 1K in size. And when you go ahead and load up the map, you're going to notice you spawn naked and afraid on a beach. You're going to be hitting some barrels, which you're going to find rudimentary tools and weapons, and then as you move your way inland, there's going to be various monuments in here, some that are actually new twists on some of the monuments, and in those monuments you're going to find higher end items, blueprint fragments, armor, things of that nature. Even though it's a small island, it's very dense. There's lots of ridgeways and rock formations, so be aware, keep on your toes when you're running around here. It's going to be very populated, especially if it's a server with a lot of players playing on it. The centerpiece to it is going to be the Death Star, or the Sphere Monument, which is sort of the hill, if you will, and that's going to probably be the place where you're going to want to get to. That is also in an Arctic biome, so you have to dress appropriately. Keep in mind, guys, walking around the landscape here, this is a new iteration of the procedurally generated terrain. The changes here are subtle in nature, but it's basically changes to the topography, and the biomes are a little more streamlined. The rock formations have been changed a bit too, so you're going to notice a much more natural and rich looking landscape. It's a bit hard to see when you're looking at it, but you'll notice the devil's in the details when you're running around the landscape, and really cool stuff. This again is a centerpiece, that globe monument. Alright guys, really hope you enjoyed this week's Rust update video. As always, Fado82, peace.